Alright there geezers, Jules here from FGS, home of the Future Game Show, and if there is one thing that I know after years of working on YouTube and peddling my awful brand of comedy, it's torture. If you've ever been in a room with me and the vibe has died, right, buckle in my friends, because I am not saving this sinking ship and I will revel in the awkward for as long as possible. I kid, of course. I'll fill every silence with chat because I'm so painfully anxious, but the point stands that thanks to researching this week's video, I've become a master of torture. To the point where you can officially now call me Mr. Clampy Bonebreaker McPokey. From putting players through excruciatingly slow sections, lumbering them with confusing mechanics, or just planting a brick of all boss battles in front of them and saying, "Have a chew on that, my mate," these video games don't just spit in the face of your good times, but farted on your dinner for good measure as well. Yum. So let's descend into the dungeon of malice, my friends. Which for the record will look and operate exactly like this corner of my studio as ever before, as we have a insidious chat, because I'm Jules, this is FGS, and these are 8 video games that tortured you. And as this is the Deep Cut with Jules Gill, baby, don't expect to see the likes of Dark Souls or Final Fantasy's Endless Corridor popping up here, or even the actual torture sequence from Metal Gear Solid 2. Deep cuts only, my friends. Now pass me the nose yoinker as we go to number 8. Which is Twitch integrated games. If you've ever thought to yourself, boy howdy, I sure am feeling pretty good this morning, I definitely don't wish to be consumed by the void, then you should stay away from Twitch integrated video games. As if there's one surefire crowd able to show you the meaning of pain and suffering, it's apparently your own bloody audience. Truly, there is no better example of people going mad with power immediately than the horrifying speed in which Twitch audiences in general will you over at the moment they get a chance to do so. From increasing enemy spawn rates or plonking in a high-level elite in the likes of Warhammer Vermintide, to changing the trajectory of your run entirely with King of the Castle, where up to 4,000 live viewers can use their votes to actively ruin your life, it's very rare for an audience to be kind, despite actively following and supposedly supporting the creator in every other sense. Plus, with applications like crowd control, even games you wouldn't even think of naturally fitting into this category can now be manipulated and, let's face it, utterly destroyed by your audience. I watched somebody do Resident Evil 4 with crowd Twitch integration. It was brutal. Now don't get me wrong, I think that this is fascinating tech and is a really cool way for audiences and streamers to interact with one another, but it's also so funny just how much your supposed fan base want to make you suffer for their own enjoyment. Bloody sadists, a lot of them, I tell ya. Number 7, Vapo Gotchi. Now I won't lie to you friends. This next entry is a bloody weird one indeed, like to the extent that when I first saw it, I thought it was a worldwide hoax. But as more and more reports came in, I settled into the rather depressing truth that the Vape-O-Gotchi, a Tamagotchi that will die unless you hit a vape, is a real thing. Now let's start with the obvious. Yes, I'm viewing a Tamagotchi as a video game. It might not be the most complex thing, but my god, we were all hooked on these weird little pixelated poopers back in the day. And 2, I want to make it clear that the Vapo-Gotchi isn't coming to market anytime soon, and instead was a submission for the stupid hackathon event held at NYU. But still, wow. This is a kaleidoscope of torture, right? And I mean that for gamers and myself personally. For a start, it's surely bordering on a war crime to gamify the act of smoking / vaping, and yes, I do think that we'll start to view the two more closely as time and health studies start to come out. And secondly, there is something so inherently disturbing about the Frankensteining of one of my generation's nostalgia points and the current generation's obsession with annihilating their lungs with pineapple-flavoured plumes of vape juice. But the worst thing? While this is a joke in its current form, this is exactly the type of stuff that bigger corporations want to bring to market. Addiction and gaming? That's basically a Venn diagram that big businesses want to unload on every single moment with their oily shafts. And if they have their way, you'll be hacking up a lung to keep a digital pet alive and paying them for the privilege. Gross. Number 6. Final Fantasy Legend. Well then, what's all this here? Why, it's the egg-shaped time machine that's been gathering a bit of dust recently just because I never really remember to use it. But we're going to change all of that today and take a trip back in time to the glory days of the Game Boy. And more specifically, we're going to go and have a look at Final Fantasy Legend. Now, this underplayed and, in my opinion, underappreciated RPG did a lot of things right. It had a big, sloppy fantasy storyline about elements and kingdoms. It had all the grinding you could ask for, and even contained enough brilliant gameplay elements that it supposedly influenced the Pokemon series of games for the same console, which, in case you didn't know, they're pretty flipping popular. I know, it's flown by me as well. However, there's also a random and aggressive cruel streak in this game, which amounts to absolute torture in my eyes. And that's the moment that you have to make the decision to move to the second floor of the tower that you're fighting your way up through. You see, just before this point, you're awarded the King's Armor, the King's Shield, and the King's Sword. And my God, are these weapons overpowered. And they allow you to slice through enemies as if they were warm butter. And let me tell you, it was pretty easy to get drunk on this power. I mean, I was drinking down all that warm butter. I don't know what I was doing, crazy. But it's a shame then when the game demands that you sacrifice these items in order to progress, meaning that you have to hand over some of the best items in the game, and your reward for this is a punishing slog to get back to this level of power again. Oh, you dastardly devs, you've given us a taste and are now shoveling in grit and chewed nails into our mouths. You've let us taste raw power and now are only offering up rotten, raw, bubbly chicken thighs. How expertly you've dashed our hopes, and now if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go cry about it in a corner for a while. Number 5. GDC Finger Fillet Game. So a few weeks ago, the FGS team and I were lucky enough to attend the GDC event in San Francisco, and as such, we saw tons of new upcoming games and spoke to a lot of developers about their exciting new projects. And we also attended an absolutely brilliant event called Control-Alt-GDC, where developers present games that they've made that utilize unique control schemes. And by that I mean that they were relentlessly silly. There was a game in which you could use a seesaw to shoot cannons at sea monsters, a game in which you operated on a mascot by reaching inside its gooey body, and then there was my personal favourite, a torture device masquerading as a horror rhythm game. This title used a bespoke retractable knife controller, which, when used in combination with your own hand, became an interactive game of 5-finger fillet, and yes, it was as painful and as stressful as that sounds. You basically had to position the knife over to the corresponding area that the notes were dropping in and then stab the gap in between your fingers. Or in my case, as it was, plunge down right into your soft, supple fingies and then try not to cry on camera. But I was a big boy and I made it through. Just. All in all, this is a horrible but brilliant bit of kit, offering up stress, fear and pain all in one gloriously grisly package. And if that isn't torture, I don't know what is. Number 4, Shadow Tower. Okay, yes, the evil finger temple of doom is out once more, meaning I've been a right nasty pasty and twisted the concept of this video ever so slightly, because at the start of the video, I said in no uncertain terms that Dark Souls or any Soulsborne game would appear here. But you have to remember, friends, FromSoft have been making games for some time now, and let's be honest, they've been absolute from the start. This unrelenting nightmare is Shadow Tower for the PS1, a death that comes at you so slow that it makes the Titanic's turning circle look bloody nippy by comparison. And yet, despite playing on what feels like a ketamine come down at half speed, I absolutely adore this game. It's just a bloody shame that it hates me and everyone else. The bones and indeed spiteful spirit of Dark Souls are present here, with challenging enemies, dark moody visuals and enough confusing plot to make you think that English isn't actually your first language anymore. And when compounded by a surprisingly deep combat system and tons of different character builds, it means that Shadow Hearts should be an utter joy. Unfortunately, playing it is not. It's strange. It's like the developers made a brilliant and engaging game and then absolutely biffed it when it came to camera controls and movement. If you thought that Kingsfield was slow and grating, then you've seen absolutely nothing, my friends, because Shadow Tower trudges along at a speed that is borderline comical. Except it's not funny, because the punchline here is actually you. You who is now fighting against everything the game throws at you because you just know deep down that this is actually a brilliant game despite all of the awful game design. And that, my friends, is what we call Stockholm Syndrome. We've come to love our torturer. Enjoy. Number 3, Arm Spirit. Okay, so yeah, this was actually such an easy inclusion for this video because I'm really struggling to think of an experience that actually damaged players as much as the arcade arm wrestling game Arm Spirit did. And I say that because this game right here broke 3 people's arms. Not all at the same time, obviously, because that would actually be insane, right? But still, 3 different players got their arms snapped by this absolute monster of a game. I honestly don't know what else to say other than the footage that you're probably seeing right now is of other, less arm-breaky arm wrestling arcade games, and that's because Arm Spirit was obviously recalled and likely added to some shady government Terminator-style program, because honestly, if you've got this kind of destructive, bone-breaking power, I'm sure the Justin Hammers of this world would definitely be licking their lips at the prospect. So yeah, long story short, this game tortured you in 2 forms. The first is breaking your arms, and the second is coming from your mates teasing you at how a video game broke your bloody arm. Number 2, the next wave of frustration platformers. Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy, Jump King, Chained Together, Only Up, Baby Steps. If even mentioning these names is causing your throat to fill with bile and your knees go a bit weak, then word to the wise, my friend, you're about to have your face blasted off like you're an Ark of the Covenant, as if you thought that frustration platformer genre had reached its aggravating peak. You're dead wrong. If you are to search for upcoming games that fall into this horrendously challenging category, then you'll be appalled at the amount of torture devices that are pretending to be games. We've got Boom Legger, which is Jump King, but you climb by firing your leg gun prosthetic. We've got Who Wears the Crown, which is Getting Over It, but at the same time, chess. Ugh. And we've got I Was Turned Into a Sword, which is also like Getting Over It, but with you having to attack monsters on top of all of this nonsense. And yeah, some of these ideas are like putting a hat on a hat, but in this example, it's like placing an angry honey badger on a hat, because these games are coming for you, and they will not stop. If you choose to play any of these willingly, then my God, man, get some help. There's challenging, and then there's climbing Everest with just your tongue. In fact, I bet that will become a game in this genre because of its intense hatred for you even remotely having a good time. And number 1, playing against the AI, Blood Bowl 3. Oh, sorry guys, let me put away this soiled pair of peasant trousers, because while I am about to air my dirty laundry, you don't exactly need to see how I put the dung in my dungarees. So this, right here my friends, is Blood Bowl 3, Warhammer's take on the glorious and very silly sport of American football. It's ridiculously silly, it's over-the-top vibrant, and it is brutally chaotic. And when played against a skilled opponent is also a game I straight up can't win because I'm hot, smelly garbage at this. Seriously, I've dropped to this point hundreds of hours into this franchise, and my win rate could be counted on the hands of my mate No Thumbs Neil. And yet, I absolutely bloody love it. Except that is when I decide to play Blood Bowl 3's single-player campaign mode, as here the AI is an excruciating, unrelenting nightmare that borders on the offensive. To give some examples, instead of caging up with the ball, sometimes the AI will send their weakest player to pick up the ball and then just stand there in the open without support. Other times, they'll leave huge gaps in their line because they fancy punching your team in battles that they simply cannot win. And in the weirdest of cases, they'll break through your line, leaving the ball carrier on their own so that you can just sack them and cut off their entire team in the process. It is, in short, so insanely easy to win that you're gonna think you've gone mad. And bumping up the challenge doesn't change their tactics at all. Instead, all it seems to do is flavour the dice rolls so unrelentingly against you that it just is not fun. You can lose by doing everything right, but the dice will just go, no, just don't fancy working for you today. And that in turn makes it even more painful. So why this game, Jules, I hear you ask? Why this AI? Why do you have such a rage bone of a Blood Bowl 3 that your Todger is resembling Scarbrand? Well, because, my friends, this game came out in February 2023, and only now, in 2025, are we getting a roadmap that says the devs are taking a look into updating the AI. I I can't tell you how relieved slash I am that it's finally happening, but it has taken way too damn long. So consider this my hopefully final moan about the subject, because I just want to enjoy my silly Warhammer football game. Please, I don't ask for much. And it's ridiculous that I've had to put up with it for this long. I've actively tortured myself in order to level up and play games and test out different teams against an AI that is so unrelentingly that it gives me a false sense of accomplishment, that I'll take that team that I thought was brilliant, go against an online player, and they will absolutely deck me. And all the people online are just don't bother playing it, just play online only. I hate the fact that there is an entire mode that I can't use because the devs just couldn't figure out how to do it. And the worst thing is, they made Blood Bowl 2 that had far better AI. What is going on? Why couldn't one be transposed onto the other? Anyway, I'm done. Hopefully, this update will remove my torture. I'll be freed from the shackles of Blood Bowl 3 single player. But if you don't, I'll probably moan about it again. And there we go, my friends. Those were 8 video games that tortured you. I hope that you enjoyed that, or at least got something from it. And let me know what you thought about it down in the comment section below. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me over on my social medias at RetroJ with a 0 over on Blue Sky. And if you want to follow my lovely editor Mark, you can do so here over on his social medias. But before I go, my friends, I just want to say one thing. Even though we spoke about video games that torture you, I don't want you to torture yourself for mistakes that you might have made in the past. I want you to learn to forgive yourself and move on with happiness in your heart instead of resentment. Trust me, every single person here makes mistakes. We all do. We are human. We are fallible creatures. So please don't hold on to that resentment for mistakes you made in the past. Learn from them. Use that as a trajectory to push you forward and try not to make the same mistakes again. That's all that you can do, all right? And along the way, just remember to be kind to yourself as well. It'll lift you up. It will allow you to go out there and experience so many new things if you just start with that daily reminder that you deserve the bloody best, you big ledge. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that. I'll speak to you soon. Bye.